All right, we're back at it again. It is Minutemen Initiative time. Today we're going to be talking about basic sniper skills and some just disciplines overall as far as the sniper perspective and sniper mission goes. That's a little bit outside of me and Steven's wheelhouse, so we're bringing in a guest. Luke, also known on Instagram as Skullduggerous Pirate, has agreed to come on the podcast, and we sit down and talk with him and pick his brain on kind of his thoughts and perspective and techniques on different just basic sniper disciplines. He also gets a little bit into just some of his experiences and what he's learned along the way with his military career, as well as a law enforcement background and a bunch of different experience that he's built over the years. So we really enjoyed sitting down and talking with him, and we're looking forward to having him on again in the future. So sit back and enjoy the episode. Let's get this thing rocking and rolling. So, as always, me and Steven are here holding it down, but we've got a special guest today. We have Luke with us, and most people may know him better as Skullduggerous Pirate. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Dude, where'd you get that name from?
So I get that a lot, and that's kind of funny. For a while there, I did maritime security contracting, and to keep, like, you know, the whole Captain Phillips thing, keep the pirates off the ship. After that market kind of boomed. So I worked in that for a little bit. And, but, you know, the 24-hour post on the ship. So when you work night shift, you got your buddy that you're relieving. He's out there walking around the ship in the middle of dark. So you always like sneak up on each other and like play tricks or just something goofy.
Yeah.
And then like, you can't just call me the sneaky pirate. We need like a synonym for something really ridiculous. So we literally Googled synonyms for like tricky. And I was like, oh, Skullduggerous, I'll take it. And that's where it was the Skullduggerous Pirate.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, so Skullduggerous Pirate is in reference to his Instagram user. So for those that didn't know. But yeah, so how long have you been playing the Instagram social media game?
Oh, I don't know, 4.5 years maybe. I mean, it was when I first started, and still now, just casual, my little knick-knack thing I throw around, and if I can pass off a little tip or a trick I get along the way, I send it forward. You know, I try not to keep anything in secret. You know, like if I was like, oh, cool, that was neat, and it helped me. I like trying to pass it on.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, man. So we're gonna be getting into basically some sniper basics. That's a big question we have from our audience a lot, and I think specifically when you're talking about different jobs that kind of modern Minuteman can have, I feel like this role, obviously it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of education and training, but I think it's a very effective role and could lend itself very well to like defense of a community. I mean, there's a lot of historical relevance and situations where guys have held down like entire units. You know, a single guy's keeping a unit pinned down and unable to go anywhere just because he's doing his job good. So I think it's a pretty cool skill to understand, and I think it fills a lot of different areas too. Like it, you know, these skills kind of attach themselves to other things, and if you're good in these areas, you'll be good in a lot of other areas as well. So to have this conversation, we obviously look to you because you've got a lot more experience than Steven and I do. So on that, do you want to just, I guess within whatever you're allowed to say, but you want to get into your kind of your career and your experience, your background a little bit?
Yeah. So I joined the Marine Corps in 2004. I actually dropped out of high school and got a GED because I thought the war was going to be over before I could join, because the first Gulf War was like 9 minutes long. I'm like, man, I got to get over there. So I dropped out of high school, got a GED, and joined the Marine Corps at 17. So what would have been my senior year was like boot camp SOI, first deployment. So, yeah, looking back now, 20 years later, I'm like, oh man, I had all the time in the world. I should have definitely stayed in school. Anywho, did the Marine Corps, joined the National Guard when I got out from that, and then went into law enforcement. Law enforcement wise, I was SWAT, then a SWAT sniper, then a SWAT sniper team leader, and then I had, while I was also in the National Guard, and then that's when I started doing maritime contracting because I had so much time off as a cop. So I would take like 3 months and go work overseas for 3 months. So I was contracting, doing maritime, National Guard, and law enforcement all at the same time for a while. That started getting exhausting. So I was like, I'm just going to go contract full time for a little bit. And so then I went and did that. I contracted full time with a couple different companies in Iraq and Afghanistan and some other places, and then left that. And then now I am working currently full time at the National Guard Sniper School.
Wow.
So
that was a lot in a super short amount of time. It's a very, very detailed but yet brief background. I love it.
Yeah. No, that was intense. I learned something just now. I didn't know all that.
So, National Guard. So, like Army National Guard, I'm guessing, or
right? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even think there is an Air National Guard Sniper School. I'd be blown away if there was. Actually, there might be. They have their equivalent to like MPs, the security forces.
Yeah.
And they have a sniper school. It's like CPAC, close precision target engagement or something. They have a course like that for their security forces dudes, but.
Okay.
I don't know anything about the schoolhouse or I can't even speak on it. I've met like 2 graduates from it, and I don't know anyone who's like works there or anything. So,
okay.
But yes, Army National Guard. Sorry.
Sweet. So, how'd you get into the sniper world?
So I tried out for like other special operations type stuff that have swimming involved, and I found out I was not the strongest swimmer in the world. And I was like, cool. What else can I do that doesn't require swimming? I'm like, sniper stuff? You have a swim test? And they're like, nah, man, we ain't got that. I was like, do I have to like tread water with a 45-pound plate? And they're like, nah. I'm like, cool, I'll try out for this. And that's kind of where I went that direction. So
cool.
Sweet deal. Well, you want to get into kind of the meat and potatoes of this podcast? We'll get into kind of the main thing that we're going to be talking about is just something that I've really enjoyed from your page, is some of your tips and tricks as far as like camouflaging yourself. So I felt the best place to start was probably on body, maybe getting into just gear or tips and tricks just to camouflage your person, I guess. So if we want to get into like uniform and clothing, that would be awesome. Just tips and tricks as far as like ghillie suits to purchase over the counter or build your own ghillie suit. Back when I was
so the ghillie suit. So I have like literally 13 different suits in my shop right now. So a lot I've bought them are been issued that were free. So I've been given to test and try. And it just kind of comes down to little knickknacks and features. And I'm actually, what's funny, I have started filming a video of comparison of all the current ones, and I have one I'm waiting on to show up to get them all and talk about everything.
Yeah.
Ghillie suit wise, the days of building your own and doing all that, I don't want to say it's over. It's a good thing to learn, but there's some alternates out there that are so much cheaper than your time involved. If you're going to get a set of uniforms and cut this out and sew this and glue that, how valuable is your time to you, right? So for you, I'm not the expert sewer, but I can repair a button, but I can also glue some stuff and put it down. I've done both. I've made several. So the amount of time to, I think, build like a 3-piece, by that I mean pants, top, and then like a veil, which is the modified boonie that covers your scope and stuff when you're in position. The time to build one of those correctly is extremely time consuming. Done right, I would say 12 to 24 hours of time, depending on how skilled you are. Or you can get one from Amazon for $40 and how much you're actually using it, so that's me, right? So with that said, I think the skill sets you should learn, like, man, you go make a veil. And so if you know how to do it, or if you just want to do 20 minutes on the day and it's just your little project when you get off work, I kind of a relaxed thing. You go and glue and make that and just modify so you know how to do it. I think it'd be a good thing to do. But if you can, a lot of these guys make really, really good suits that are affordable and have features packed into them with materials that they buy in bulk that are cheaper. Like one company, I have one in now, the whole thing's waterproof, so it doesn't hold water. So when it gets wet, it doesn't go from weighing 2 pounds to 19 pounds, get all the juice soaked. You just get it, shake it off, and now it's dry again. So
that's sick.
I can't make it for that price because that material is bought in bulk, and I can't even get it. For me to get the 3 yards that I need, I have to buy all 1,900 yards of it.
Right.
So there's It's how you want to do it. I think you should learn how to do it if that's one of the things you want to do. But if you can buy a base layer and like a cheap Amazon ghillie or just a pre-made ghillie in general and jute it up and spend that other 12 to 24 hours learning how to stalk with it, I think you're more beneficial doing that versus sitting there on your counter gluing and sewing stuff. But if you spent 24 hours stalking and training, I think it'd be more beneficial. So that's my little 10 cents on that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I know when I was, because I was in a scouts platoon, so kind of reconnaissance background. And
yep, I started there too. So you have a section of scouts and a section of snipers.
Yep, so. Exactly. And even for our scouts, so that's all. I was never a sniper, but I was part of the scouts, and even they wanted us to have ghillie suits, but back then we didn't have. I mean, that was back in 2000. I was in from 2011 to the end of 2014, so there was like not very many options besides like going to Gander Mountain or something and buying some cheap thing that was like way too juted up.
The woodland Wookiee? Yeah. Hell yeah, brother. Get some.
So we would, we'd just take multicams, cut them up, and shoe goo on some netting, and then get jute packs and do all literally what you were just talking about. And yeah, about 12 to 24 hours, depending on how skilled you were. So, and then that's not even.
You think about a full thing of pants, a full top, a full everything. I mean, starting from scratch, brother. Yeah, that's some time.
Yeah, and then that's not even including going out and ghillie washing it and getting it actually like prepped up for the field. So it was time consuming. I know that. So it's good to know that there's options out there for you to purchase. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think, my opinion. You can learn how to make a ghillie suit or learn how to hide. So if you learn how to hide, you know how to make your ghillie suit. Yeah. So if you're just making one blindly with no skill set behind it, what are you doing it for? Right. So if you can kind of borrow it, buddies, and get good at stalking, you're like, man, that shit don't matter. Oh, this stuff, I wish I had this feature on that. Then you can make one better. Yeah. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And I think, a question might kind of ring out as far as people that are listening, be like, man, why are they starting with, camouflage? And I mean, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, but we think it's a pretty pivotal part of that whole mission, that whole concept, like remaining undetected and maintaining a position where not only can you be effective with, a potential weapon system, but more importantly, effective from like gathering information and surveilling and, tracking different things like that. So, I'm curious what are some, I guess if you were going to break down the basics of remaining undetected as far as camouflage goes, like right now we're kind of specifically talking about clothes and stuff like that. You mentioned, you think it's more important to hide rather than just, build camouflage. What are some basic areas that you think are really important to start with for those that might not be familiar with, from the start to the
personally,
end?
If you know where you're going, route selection is going to help you on that one. If you know that there's a terrain feature between you and said item on a map, you can walk freely pretty much. Like, so for instance, there's a dried out creek bed that is there. You can walk freely against it the whole way. Just for example, you don't have to skull drag across a golf course when you can just go 200 meters the other way and take a dried out creek bed. Route selection is going to save you a shit ton of time. Spend half an hour to an hour, depending on, I hate to say it, METC, depending on how much time you have. But yeah, plan a good route. If you know that there's a creek bed and a real thick brush here with a trail and a game trail here and do whatever, and you can just skirt along that and get to where you're going, and you can just be wearing a white t-shirt walking down the thing because there's so much dense vegetation and terrain feature between you and where you're going, then by all means go that way. You don't even need a ghillie suit if you have proper terrain analysis.
Yeah.
So that's just, I think terrain analysis is a huge one, and that can come from so many different ways because your podcast, The Modern Day Minuteman, you're probably going to be fighting where you're at. Yep. So as you drive around, just make little notes. You're like, oh, cool. I never know this is a ditch there. I can crawl through that, or I can walk through this, or, oh, they just logged that. So now there's a path walking through, you know what you're looking for and stuff like that. Terrain analysis is a huge one.
Yeah.
So if you can plan a route, you don't need all that stuff. And then when you get where you're going, if you have a proper veg block between you and have a loophole set up, we actually do a demo in sniper school with an instructor set up wearing an orange road guard vest, and no one can find him because he has proper veg block. And I'll send you those pictures over. But yeah, it's we set up an instructor to a sniper on a tripod, sitting on a lawn chair, hanging out with the orange road guard vest on, and no one can find them because the veg block's properly done. And you're like, Now, granted, that's stationary position from one direction, right? So we're just showing the effects of a loophole. Yeah. Not 360 security, not against thermal, stuff like that. Just showing from a direction with a loophole how effective it can be if you just use a veg block. So,
can you break down veg block for those that might have not heard about that before?
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I can veer off them. I hate acronyms myself, so I try not to. But yeah, there I'm doing an acronym, but yeah, an unknown. So yeah, veg block is a row or a strip or a section of natural vegetation, like a clump of trees between you and the target. So, and you can find one little area of like a hole to look through, which is a loop, hence loophole, and you set up between that. It's a natural vegetation terrain feature between you and where you're going.
Yeah, sweet.
Is that clear? Is that clear enough?
Yep, absolutely. And then generally you want to have a decent amount of standoff from that, correct? So you're
ideally, right? So say I'm shooting at something 500 yards away. Mm-hmm. I would love to have a veg block at 200 and then like 350. And then I would set up, I would like to be away from it as well, because if they're trying to burn you with glass, they're going to focus on that veg block in front of you. But if you're like 50 to 100 meters behind that veg block, their focus is going to be on that veg block optically, because they're going to start playing with parallax and they're going to focus on that veg block in front of you, but you're actually way behind it. So that's what I like. If you can stack them up in front of you and they're going to focus on other things when you only have a little small, like 3 to 4 inch hole between these different veg blocks, they're not going to be able to burn through all that and find you that far away. Even if you're 300 yards away, you have a veg block at like 75, one at 200, but you're 100 yards away from that furthest one, their optics are going to be hitting that first one right in front of them. So you have almost 200 yards of defilade that they're trying to focus, but their optics are hitting that one at 75. So they'll never bust you on that.
Yeah, that's legit. So then you're layering your camouflage basically, because you've got your veg block, and then your positioning too should be well thought out, and then kind of going like all the way down to what's on your body and kind of back around to camouflage, I guess. What are some things that you think, besides, maybe not specifically ghillie, but if you're going to break down like base layer stuff, like tops, bottoms, different things like that, headgear, like what are some good basic things that people could kind of think about?
So one thing you should always have on you, like a ghillie suit wise, that's not specific to just all first line, is a pair of pruning shears. So if you are going to veg up your suit, it's easier to clip that away with some pruning shears. And then I'm sure you've done land nav and you've just been tangled up before. You can snip yourself out of it. But if you're walking around with a big old Velcro suit where all these briars, all the sticks are grabbing, you can just snip yourself out. So also when you start getting snagged, if you start pulling your arm away, you got to think about the overhead movement, right? So if you're hitting a tree and shaking it and you're attached 6 inches below, but you're trying to forcibly unremove the jute from the branches, what's that doing 9 feet above? The tree's swaying, right? Yeah. But if you can just clip it with the pruning shears, it'll be less movement overhead, right? So pruning shears, 100% camouflage them. They wear out. Spray paint them up. Bring extra face paint. Like I said, with your pruning shears, as you're snipping stuff to get shiny, so you can use face paint temporarily to touch up your pruning shears. So I would always have that in a ghillie bag. My ghillie bag is an old the stuff sack for a sleeping bag, and I fill all my ghillie stuff in there: gloves, boonie, face paint, shears, and all that. And I do a little cinch bag, and that's where I keep all my stuff at. Cool. But as far as like other sniper related stuff, I mean, it's the same as anything, right? You're gonna need chow, water, navigation. None of that stuff changes.
Yeah.
So, and I hate to even say it again, but Met TC, right? So, but yeah, pruning shears is an absolute must for anything like stalk related. So, yeah. But as far as like chow, water, ammo, face paint, all that stuff, that applies to anything. That's not a sniper thing. That's an everyday person task, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna need food source and stuff like that. So,
yeah. Dude, I wouldn't even feel bad about dropping the Met TC. I know there's a lot of people out there in the gun culture pooping on Met TC right now, but it's like, dude, that system, I mean, if you can apply it to so much, and
everything, dude,
and it works so good. And if you maintain that mindset,
what am I doing?
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
like, what are
And
my options? You know?
And for those that need a reminder, it's mission, enemy, terrain, time, troops, and civilian considerations. I might have said the T's out of order, but who cares? Yeah, it's
Bunch of T's.
it's but yeah, TTT. But yeah, man, you're just using it as like a quick check of what you're doing. You know, it recenters where you're at and gives you all the priorities. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, if you hear somebody bring up MET-TC, then you know, and it's like, no, shut up. Like MET-TC is legitimate. It works good. You know, I think people use it out of context, and you definitely don't want to use it as an excuse, but everything you're saying is spot on. Like it matters. Mission dictated.
It does matter.
Yeah.
Well, you ask a vague question like, what sniper rifle are you bringing? I'm like, what am I doing? Am I in Iraq, 150 to 200 yards away, or am I in Afghanistan? Because that changes, drastically. Do I want a semi-auto 308 or do I want a bolt-action 300 Norma? That's very different. So, yeah, that shit really does matter.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like, just as an analogy, I got asked the other night, I made some food and a guy was like, man, what's your favorite seasoning that you use? And I was like, MET-TC, brother. And then I drove out of there. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was like, no, I just said, dude, it depends on what you're making and what you're doing. Like what kind of flavors you're going for. Like there is no one size fits all, you know, it's the same kind of thing with all of this stuff. It's like,
right.
Yeah, you know, I think so many people try to fit this kind of stuff into like one tiny little tight category. And it's like, no, man, it's forever changing. It's dynamic. That's why this stuff's so hard. And that's why it takes so much effort and education and constant training. Cause it's forever changing. And there's, you know, bad guys are always figuring out a better way to find you and counter what you're doing. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I think MET-TC just narrows down the vagueness of it personally.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm going to purchase or look at XYZ piece of equipment. You're like, what do I need it for? You know, I think it just helped narrow down the vagueness of it.
I agree.
You brought up something really quick I wanted to touch on too for our audience is adding vegetation to the ghillie suit because not everyone knows about that. So if you don't mind just kind of breaking that down as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So a ghillie suit, right? So your base layer is a Cobra hood, Viper hood, or a homemade suit or whatever you have. That's going to be just like that cloth top that touches you with attachment points, right? And then on the attachment points, you're going to have jute, which is like hemp or like that natural fiber, if you will, kind of ropey looking stuff, right? And then that's what you weather to make it look more natural. So those two combined, they can work really good. And when I say work really good, imagine no veg blocks, right? You're trying to do that Tom Berenger stalk, you know?
Yeah.
That alone is not going to work that good but it will help, right? So what you're doing is you have a one-dimensional camouflage. Think about like that, just like an OCP top. That's one dimension, right? And then with micro terrains, those patterns are so small. You put that 200 yards out, it just looks like olive green, right?
Yeah.
You ever look at multicam from 200 yards away? You go, oh, the guy's wearing green. You get closer, you're like, damn, he's wearing multicam, right?
Yeah.
So micro features or micro patterns, kind of those things. Well, that jute adds that 3 dimensions. It's got depth to it, and now it's got other stuff. But it looks like, have you ever seen jute growing trees? The answer is no. But so it's just another dimension of camouflage. So when you get to where you're actually going, you'll have tie-down points, typically made out of 550 cord, and which the ends burn, they don't fray, right? Yeah. And you'll get vegetation from around where you're at and physically tie that onto your suit so you look just like the area and environment that you're in.
Yep. Perfect.
And that's where the printing shears come in really handy. You can just snip that off real quick.
Yeah, so if you are going to build your own ghillie suit, make sure to add 550 core tie downs. Because
me personally, the next suit I build will have no jute on it. It will just be veg tie down points.
Really?
Yep.
Sweet. So you're just going to move in, get into position, find where you want to set up at, and then just do veg tie down.
Absolutely, 100%. And that came from years of doing it. My next one I'm doing. It's just going to be a all mesh base layer, and the only thing I'm adding is tie downs. I'm not even doing jute or anything like that. And with that said, I don't want to cause false pretense or anything like that. Like our students, like, why we got to put all this jute on there? We're like, you're not that good yet. Y'all need every chance you can get. So like having more 3-dimensional camouflage on there will help you in the area where you vegged incorrectly. I'm pretty good and comfortable with my veg blocks and my vegging. So like, I'm just like, I'm going to go ahead and remove that one thing because I'm using MET-TC, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and take out that jute fiber, right? And I'm just going to try that. It's a little theory I'm working on and trying. It's just something I'm going to test out. And then you can kind of see some of the more experienced dudes. If you look at their suits, like, oh, you don't have any jute. And they're all like, yeah, it keeps falling out. I never add more. And I just keep adding more veg. Like the Germans in World War II, their saying was camouflage 20 times, shoot once. And then they're like, okay, cool. What's your ratio of like natural veg versus artificial? And it was 70-30, 70% natural veg, 30% artificial. So your suit should only be 30% jute anyway, which is not a lot. 70% is a shit ton of veg. So if I just went 100-0, I'm just going to try that theory, see how it goes.
Sweet.
Yeah. So doesn't hurt to go sparse, I guess, with the jute, as long as you know what you're doing.
Right.
But,
yeah. I mean, weathered properly, it's pretty effective. It looks good. It looks, a good weathered one. Now you get these dudes with like the natural stuff they got off Amazon. That's kind of, I don't know, not even right. And they're like, and you see this jute bomb in the woods. You're like, hold up.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta go out and actually get that stuff dirtied up. Otherwise, it's not gonna do much good for you.
Yeah, I got a little path where I'll actually I'll make some suits for some buddies or whoever they ask for, whatever. I will actually have a little thing I'll attach to my four-wheeler and drag it through like my pond in my driveway. I have a gravel driveway. So I'll hit the pond, muddy it up, hit the gravel driveway. I do that a few times. Turns out pretty good.
That's the easy way to do it, I guess.
Yeah, it's a smart way. It's a smart Ranger way.
I've been through the other way a couple times already. So.
Yeah,
that's
I was
awesome.
going to say, no, you don't do that
I
voluntarily.
think everyone should do it that way. It's a rite of passage, kind of one of those things, Like, imagine, like, oh, what's the cyber school? Oh, how's the gilly wash? Oh, we didn't do it. You're like,
we should just
you're like,
really
oh,
quick.
your credibility's on, man.
Really quick, you want to break down the gilly wash for people that don't know what that is?
Yeah, so the gilly wash, right? That comes after you've completed quite a bunch of stuff in that course. The way our course is structured, the gilly wash is around it's in week 4, so you've already our course is 6 weeks, no weekends off, and so it's a lot of training hours. When you have 12 to 16 hours every day, and then so the gilly wash is a kind of a rite of passage. You've completed your gilly suit, and you've been building it for the past week. We've critiqued it and perfected it. Like, you come an instructor, like, how about now? We're like, nope, fix this and this. And you fix that and you're like, perfect. So it's tailored just right, got it all the right title, everything's good to go. And the whole class just get big smoke fest. It's obviously not hazing at all. It wouldn't be hazing at all, but it would be a training
absolutely
session
not.
in which team bonding and rite of passage exists, but definitely not hazing. And you'll go through crawling through water and multiple terrain features such as gravel and logs and other stuff too. And it really does weather the suit, and it really absolutely does test weak points and stitching and materials and other stuff. And it really goes like natural jute that's not washed does shine. It does stick out. It does need to get frayed, drugged, and weathered and soaked in mud. That's a very real thing. But there's the rite of passage side to it too, right? Should you drag behind your four-wheeler, or should you just cowgirl up and hit it with your purse and go through the mud, So, but that's one of those things.
Yeah.
And that's what the gilly wash is for us.
Sweet. Yeah. So sounds like a big point of advice for anybody out there trying to be high speed and buy their, they're buying their Amazon ghillie suit. They should probably get out and start using it and get it dirtied up and get it weathered. Otherwise it's going to stick out.
Yeah, I would 100% put it in some mud, drag it around. If you got gravel, that works pretty good. I think asphalt or an actual concrete road's too abrasive, and you will cause failure points. But if you can kind of get it wet, that way it's kind of got a little more like weight on it, and just drag it around like hay and grass and gravel, I think that works pretty good. Then just leave it outside for a week.
Yeah.
Let the sun, let everything, just let the odors, everything hit it. I mean, just leave it outside for a week. I don't know, everyone outside in Arizona is a little different than outside in Maine, but just leave it outside. Let the weather, let it rain on it, man. Let it just kind of be in nature for a week and see what it does.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, another good thing.
If your 81 fades to snow can within a week, point taken. No, you only got a couple days because the dyes they use from this one manufacturer fade. Now you're now you know.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I do a lot of my suits. I leave them outside for about a week or two, sometimes a month, just to see if they fade funky colors. And then another thing I try to do is like actually use them. Are y'all familiar with like World War II at all?
Which
yeah.
parts?
Yeah, what context?
So anyway, so yeah,
Like
so
sniper
World War
stuff?
II, the Normandy invasion, a lot of U.S. guys got issued camo for the first time, and the frog skin camo.
Mhm.
The Marines had it for a while, but they got issued it by the Army also as well in Normandy. And they're like, I can go run this. Well, the camo was effective, everything was great, but whenever you started getting sweat soaking in it, it would turn purple. So they're like, shit, do the dies.
Sick.
So the guys were like, fuck this shit. And they all ditched it, went back to the other stuff. But it was really good. Once you start sweating too much in it, it does that. So when you're buying some stuff from Amazon that's not super approved, like put it through those things, like go get it wet just to see if the dye and leave it outside for a week, see if it fades funky ass colors, it may be really durable and stitched up, but if it fades to a weird yellow color from 36 hours in the field, that's not a really good thing,
Yeah.
I mean, you can re-dye it and re-spray paint it if you wanted to, but or you could just go get a different suit. Just test things,
For sure.
Hope that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes complete sense. Something you brought up too was the bringing on extra face paint. I think that's super important for one. People, or at least I do, most people sweat, so obviously touching up on face paint is super important. And like you said, if you're pruning shears, if the paint rubs off, because sometimes they're orange or whatever color, you can touch them up with face paint just to get through to the next time. You can touch them back up with paint. And then also like shiny objects like your watches and things like that, you can kind of take a little bit of the glare out of.
It's temporary,
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like another thing for military guys, some units don't allow them to paint their rifles, but if you got to go do something, hit it with face paint. You can wipe it right off, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with your watches, your garments. Everything's got a freaking electronic screen on there.
Yep.
If you can get a little hazy on there, but with something that's removable, it's just a temporary paint solution, which I think's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a temporary paint solution that's not Army military guys go spray paint their 110s and they get paperwork thrown on them and get reduced in rank because they're not allowed to, but they can maybe wipe it off if not, So it's one thing is that versus, just there's a shiny spot on this thing that I didn't account for, but you're not carrying around a rattle can of spray paint. So I think that's a good one too.
Yeah.
The two stuff personally, like where you push it through the other side, it's too hard to use. I like the little compact, maybe it's Maybelline looking things. So
the little tray, the little makeup tray.
yeah, I gotta have the mirror too, right? Because I'm all going commando. I'm on the beach, with my dinghy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, I like the cans weirdly, the circular push through. I just like to remove epidermis off my face when I rub it on me.
Yeah, that would, dude. I had those as a kid. I'm like, God, I need to toughen up when I join the Army because these guys are badass. They're putting this on every day.
Oh man,
yeah, just straight up ripping skin off. Gotta love it.
Yeah, the color's like loam or something. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. I need to train harder. Like I'm like 7 playing Army in the Woods. I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. I don't even know what loam means.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, as far as your weapon, camouflaging your weapon, you kind of brought it up just now, saying you can use face paint. Do most guys spray paint their rifles? That's a good question, I guess.
So, are we talking military or are we talking like civilian?
Well, I know civilians, that's been a big push, but I'm talking military, I guess.
Yeah, most of them aren't allowed to do it. Actually, a lot of manufacturers, I'm not going to name any names, but they'll void your warranty if you do it.
What?
So units are like, whatever you do not fucking spray paint it. So with the Army's counter, and I'm sure the other branches too, the Army's counter was that camo form. Think like if you sprain your ankle, that tape and camouflage. That's what they do now.
Okay.
Camo form, whatever that tape is, ace bandage looking thing, but camo patterns. Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, because manufacturers are like, oh yeah, spray. Granted, some dudes are spray painting like dumbass or spray painting the lenses. Like, fuck you, we're not going to cover this under warranty. The retard spray painted the objective lens, shit like that. Or he held the chamber open and dumped the whole can of spray paint in there. Obviously, he's retard, but so
and then scratched it off with his pocket knife.
I can see both sides of it, but yeah. So most military units are not painting. Not when I say military, I mean Army. That's where I'm at. Are not painting their weapon systems at all. 110s, Mark 22s. Now the M24s back in the day, I didn't see one that wasn't painted.
Yeah,
you see one unpainted, you're like, whoa, what you doing, dude? That new? Like, no, I haven't painted it yet. We're like, loser. But and then now we talk about it too. We're like, it sucks. We don't paint guns. We're like, it's pretty stupid. But yeah.
So it's not that it doesn't work.
Most guns are not painted. Schoolhouse guns, as far as guns do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying it's not that it doesn't work. It's just that it's more of a I guess big
right.
military problem.
Yeah, logistical errors, and they don't want you could have a spray painted gun and like something totally failed, not your fault. Like, oh, it's spray painted, the warranty's voided. Yeah. So that's why the military, the army, is not painting them. And I'm sure there's some pub somewhere that says you can't do it, or you can take a special class or something silly or whatever along those lines too. But yeah, army as a whole, painted guns not a thing, and they say just wrap it with this stuff. So
cool.
Civilian side though, what do you think? Just spray paint it? Be a man?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think you should, depending on your what your gun comes with and what it's coated with. I think you should coat it with something very durable, Cerakote, nickel boron, something like that. Get it coated in a really like metal, something to protect it from the elements, and then use that rattle can to be another additional layer on top of that, but also camouflage as well. And then if you change environments or change seasons and your gun changes, right? Some places, go through all 4 seasons. Where I live, we don't. But yeah, paint your gun, do stuff like that. I think it's absolute skill. It's a necessity. You should be spray painting bright black. That's not a burnt tree. But other than that, I mean, there's nothing in nature that's black. So, I mean, your rifle shouldn't be.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, we definitely have big season shifts here in Alaska. So what we usually do is we try to paint our guns with kind of that some summer tones and then a little bit of fall tones, like a blend, and then we just use the camoform white stuff in the winter. So
so you're familiar with camoform? I'm sure I went over the top with that, but yeah. So yeah, that was the Army solution to paint with camoform.
Yeah, that's
which is actually really good stuff, man. It really is. So
yeah, no, I've been pretty impressed with it. It's nice because then we don't got to spray paint our guns, every season and build up like a 1/8 inch to a 1/2 inch of spray paint on your gun. But yeah,
have y'all had camoform on suppressors yet?
No, I'm sure that goes over well.
Yeah, so it's just FYI, guys. I wouldn't, if you're running suppressed and you're changing the seasons, don't put camoform on your suppressors. Yeah. Just throw that one out there. It'll melt. It'll plastic. It'll melt. So
hey, we were infantry, but we're not that dumb. So
hey, man, you know what? I didn't know. I Googled and YouTube what would happen to it, and I was like, "There's not one out there." So I went and burned one down. I was like, "Okay, now I know."
Did it just leave like?
So yeah,
just
it'll definitely melt camoform
all over your can.
So that's the thing. I saw a guy with it on there at a JRTC training op, and I was like, I never thought of that. That's like, because I was smart. I'm like, what if you get onto something I'm not? I was like, I'm not telling anyone. Like, I went home my yard and like started shooting with a little 10-inch SBR I have. I wanted the results faster, so start getting them like, I still get that smell. I'm like, oh man, yep, it's not holding up. I didn't expect it to, but I figured it was. But yeah, you see a lot of dudes, especially at 110, because it's such a long suppressor, like, I'm going to wrap it with camoform because we're doing this training exercise. And then they go real life and start shooting around. And you're like, oh, now it's fucking melting my shit. So just FYI.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of companies now that make those really good suppressor wraps too, where it's got the actual like heat fabric, and then that reduces heat mirage and different stuff like that.
So
yeah,
they really are. And then I'm a suppressor nerd. I have 13 suppressors at my house and I have one pending. Like, I like suppressors. Suppressor covers, that's a whole nother genre in itself, and how much you're willing to spend, do whatever. But I've seen some really durable suppressor covers fail, and I've seen some really cheap ones do whatever, but that's a whole other topic. But suppressors are one of my jams too. That's kind of when I saw it wrapped, I was like, I was curious about that. Yeah. And then it was like, what if I put a suppressor cover on, then do camoform, so on and so forth. That was a different rabbit hole I went down on my own, but I don't have enough facts on it yet to speak on it because I haven't done it. But yeah, that was another one for me. So
yeah, that could be interesting. Break it up even more.
Yeah, I like a lot of trial and error stuff. Like, there's a guy I work with too. Like, he'll take your opinion on a gun, then go buy it anyway. just to see to get first experience. So I'm like, I appreciate that.
That's cool.
Have you used this? Yeah, I hated it. I call him about it anyway. Oh yeah, you're right. It sucked and sell it, but he wanted his own opinion on it, and I appreciate that too because how much misinformation is put out in the internet. Like I've seen stuff just blatantly wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about visual camouflage as far as hiding from the naked eye. But nowadays we got to worry about things like IR and thermal. So what are some tips that you have for trying to stay undetected from those kinds of things?
Oh boy, I thought you'd never ask, right? So that's the thing. Like I'll someone will ask me a ghillie suit question and I'll answer it, and then they'll be like, yeah. But what's the IR and the thermal? But so they'll just go off this tangent, right? So a lot of it, I think, comes from lack of understanding, and it also comes from, I don't know, maybe misinterpreting certain things. I honestly, almost every conversation I have with a person, they don't actually know what IR means. Like our IR signature, like what pops when you look at it from night vision. Like, bro, you're not gonna street sign like you're just glowing, right? And then my first answer for IR. And of course, I asked him, like, can you hide from naked eye first? Because everyone has those.
Yep.
If you can't accomplish that competently, then let's just go ahead and go back to the base, right? So now IR, infrared, that one's easy. If you're veg, that's what brought me to my 0% jute, 100% veg suit. If you're veg with everything you're surrounded with, you're gonna have the exact same IR signature where you're at.
Yep.
Because the leaves on you have the same IR signature as other stuff, right?
Yep.
As far as thermal, that's a whole crazy thing. I did something I actually read in a book. The German sniper, he used an umbrella as a hide site. And I was like, fuck. Because all thermal does is just all you need is a barrier in front of you to defeat it. So if you put like a umbrella, in front of you with a little hole cut out, like you can defeat thermal, but you still got to defeat it from the naked eye now too, right? So it goes back to the basics. And then someone's like, what if the umbrella heats up from body temperature? I'm like, I'm behind the umbrella, dumbass. But anyway, it's another thing in itself there. And then what got me, I'm working on a thermal ghillie suit as well. I was actually in my yard and had an armadillo that was tearing my shit up my yard. So I put my thermal in front of my gun and I'm in my yard scanning around looking. And I live on a farm with chickens and ducks and other stuff like that. And I realized I couldn't pick up my ducks under thermal.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So I'm like, hold on. So that scan, I went into my barn and I start looking at my chickens under thermal and all my birds. I can see their heads. There's no feathers there. The way the down feather and with other stuff and the way they have their layering. I don't have the correct answer yet, but I'm working on a thermal ghillie based off of a duck.
Dude, that's awesome.
Dude,
I don't have the answer with it yet because there's some of those thermal ghillies you throw over and defeats thermal, but for how long?
Right.
Because you're going to heat it up eventually.
Yeah.
But that duck's sitting out there and he's been sitting there for fucking 24 hours. And he beat my ass on thermal.
Interesting.
So now, is it going to be a winter only suit? Is it going to be... So I don't know. I don't have the answer for it yet. Like, can you get a suit that has a liquid jacket that keeps you cool to do whatever, and the outside I don't have the answer yet. But I know that my idea is going down the rabbit hole. That's when I saw that a duck was defeating thermal. I was like, shit. Okay, there's something there. I don't know what route to take. So that's kind of where I was at with that one. But yeah, I'm working on it, and I don't have the answer for that one just yet.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the IR thing though, because I see it all the time. Like I see people like putting out different fabrics and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, look, it's IR reflective or whatever." And I think there's validity to some of that stuff, but most of the time it's like, all right, like you comparing this camo shirt to that camo shirt, and like, yeah, it shines I wouldn't even say shine. It's like a little bit brighter than this one or that one, but if somebody's out at 200 yards, watching you and not moving, like I guarantee you're not going to pick them up because of this somewhat noticeable IR reflection that you see at 5 yards. You know what I mean? So,
right. Yeah. And the thing is, some natural stuff has IR signature too, because it's just reflective. Like
leaves.
You get a shiny leaf tree that has like a magnolia tree. It's going to have more IR signature than other stuff. Like it's not a thing. Like everything has its own purpose. So it's like some stuff in nature has a high IR signature. So like are you sticking out? Are you not?
Yeah.
I think that's why I said a lot of people speak don't know what they're talking about. So obviously you like to have no Irish signature and just blend in. But the easy answer to that, if you're that super worried about it, like everything military, combat wise, go to the surplus store and get a top and bottom that's already been reduced in IR signatures, right? And then guys are like, oh, my fabric I washed it in, now doing that. Brother, if the fabric that you washed your uniform didn't get you killed, you're doing so many things wrong. You know? So
you would have gotten seen regardless, I think.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, up here, like a lot of our vegetation is really hardy because, you know, we have pretty rough seasons here. So a lot of our leaves have this like waxy kind of feel and look to them. So yeah, you look at vegetation here, for example, in Alaska, and it's like the whole wood line's reflecting back at you. So, you know, it's very,
wait,
you
the natural trees have an infrared signature. Damn, it's crazy. Huh?
Yeah. Right. But cool.
Again, if you're veg with where you're at, it would look just like where you're at.
Exactly.
Like I've said before too, you know, thermal, man, that one's a tough. It really is. There's not a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
When I think technology, especially with current conflict going on around the world, it's going to accelerate, you know, and I don't have, and no one I know of has a thermal solution that's mobile at the time, right? Instead of, you know, like, yeah, you can get an umbrella and like drape stuff over you and like move up on stuff. Like that's a thing. But realistically, like, what would you look like to someone under night vision now, right? You defeated one source, but now the other guy's like, there's a fucking 6 foot cubit guy in a one of those pop-up canopies. Yeah, you get one of those and hide underneath that, you can walk up and defeat thermal all day long. But now the guy under night vision's like, look at this fucking asshole. So defeating both systems at the same time is hard while moving. Stationary, it can be done. Yeah, it's defeating either one of them stationary is easy. Defeating them while moving is hard.
Yeah.
So,
oh, you got me rolling. Oh, that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, asteroid. He's walking around with all his stuff on, just like you know. And what's that? I forget that movie where they invade whatever, and he's got the big, huge clunking around stuff, and it's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? But yeah, so I don't have the answer for that. Thermal's easy to defeat. Put a barrier between you and the thermal, you defeated it. Done, easy.
Yep.
IR, just use the shit whatever you're around you, just use that.
There you
now
go.
both those combined, I don't know, man. Sometimes you just fucking die.
Yeah.
So,
dude, it sounds horrible, but it's true, man. It's like you can't, and I think that's where situational awareness and things like route planning and some of those other things you were starting to pick on that are way more important. That's why those are so important. And paying attention to the details and to drop it again, Met TC, like understand what's going on and who your enemy is and what their capabilities are. Because, yeah, with today's technology, you can't hide from everything. So, yep.
Yeah, if I had a solution to defeat thermal and IR while moving, I wouldn't be talking to y'all because I'd be so fucking rich. So.
You wouldn't be no one would know who you were. You'd be wrapped up under the protection of some government somewhere if you knew how to do all that. So
yeah, I'd be in Area 51 selling whatever. So that's kind of that. But again, stationary, we've kind of figured that out. You know, this conflict is pretty easy, but yeah, doing both while moving and naked eye, choo.
Yeah,
let me know. That's why I was working with the duck stuff. I was like, damn, I know his ass is there. You can see their heads.
Yeah,
and I was like, ooh, they're on to something. Now, in order to do that,
they're on to something.
Figure it out. I don't have an answer for that.
Dude, I'm gonna go home and look at my chickens.
Yeah, dude.
Thermal. That's crazy.
Thermal, you'll be like, damn, they got it figured out. They're smarter than us.
That is crazy.
Any other tips on like on person camouflage? Like any thoughts or anything on gloves or boots or anything like that before we move on to more of the important stuff like movement and stuff like that?
So I bring gloves for sure because, again, right, you use your hands constantly for everything. And face paint on hands just wears off so fast, it's kind of useless. So, yeah, I get mechanic gloves that are multicam. We get them at AutoZone for $20. They last a long time. So, yeah, and they protect your hands from cuts and briars and stuff like that. So, yeah, I would definitely bring gloves. I'm not a COVID fan by any means, and I think that's a big old hoax. But if you got a COVID mask and put a little bit of jute on it, it can help you out for camouflage face paint as well. I mean, kind of one of those things. I saw some dudes do that. I was like, He's like, I got tired of painting my damn face over and over and over and over again, putting the dip in, blah blah. So he put a little, basically made a little like ghillie COVID mask, and he wore that for stuff. And I was like, he goes, and it's warm. I'm like, damn, okay. No, if it's hot, the opposite, it sucks. But yeah, for his face, use a little COVID mask to kind of camouflage himself. Yeah, just an extra another little thing, just to save you on paint. And if it's cold outside, kind of acts as another barrier for whatever, all political and whatever you decide. But yeah, it was a piece of another barrier to protect his face from the cold, and he could camouflage it. So I was like, valid, makes sense. There's a reason for it, a purpose.
Yeah,
so, more so.
Finally, a purpose for those masks, because I don't know.
Yeah, no shit. I was in a warehouse. I was like, yes, snipers love these things. Let's get these out of that.
Yeah, 12 people bought it. Yay!
From a COVID mask. Now it's a sniper mask.
Yeah. Hot and cold conditions.
But then another thing, I'll say that too, if you're making your own ghillie, avoid. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead with what you're saying. I can ask you afterwards.
No, I was going to say, if you're building your own ghillie or buying whatever, avoid zippers and avoid Velcro and any of that, because they're going to fail so fast with mud and dirt and stuff like that. And most people can't repair a zipper, and most people can't repair a Velcro.
Yeah,
but everyone should be able to sew a button back on. And buttons are silent, zippers aren't. It is Velcro. So if you can, on that, just for leaving ghillie suits, I would use more buttons if you could do anything.
That's a great tip.
I was just going to ask, depending on hot and cold weather, if you are going to build something, just understand, at least for me, when we had to run ghillie suits, they were warm. Luckily for us, I did venting stuff and whatnot on mine, but yeah, it can get pretty hot, especially if you're low crawling and having to actually do it for real out there. So,
oh yeah, no, ghillie suit is going to be a ghillie suit, a full ghillie, and a warm environment, and there's going to be like an actual stalk. It's going to be one of the hottest things you ever do. It's I remember when I was going through the schoolhouse, I was doing a 3-hour stalk. I was putting away like 3 gallons of water, and I was still not enough. I carried that much water only, and I carried like a bunch of pizza and in my drag bag. But yeah, it's one of the most as far as like heat cat and stuff like that. Yeah, it's right there with. I'm sure you can go do some other stuff that's worse, but it is pretty damn bad. A full ghillie, like skull dragging in the summertime in Arkansas or Georgia or Louisiana. Yeah, man, that's up there with some of the hottest shit I've done.
Yeah. Yeah, Louisiana was rough. I can just say that right now. I was there in August, and that was not enjoyable.
Dude.
I was going to say something else. I just lost it, though. That's all right. We can move on to what we were talking about, though, as far as movements.
Yeah, so you kind of talked about choosing routes and stuff like that. So you got into movements a little bit, but I guess now moving out of basic camouflage considerations, what are some basics on movement and like stalking and stuff as far as building those disciplines and building those skills and being effective at it? I would say get into everything from like movement techniques, different ways to do it, and and then we can kind of get into. I would like to go back into like using terrain and stuff like that too. But
so obviously, the higher above the ground you get, the more the easier are to spot, right? But how time consuming and calorie consuming is crawling. All right, so that's realistically if you get low crawl from Kuwait to Baghdad that you'd never be seen, right? But that's not realistic. So if you lower you get, the less visual signature you get off. Another big one that we harp on is move directly to the target versus laterally, right? So imagine sitting out and do y'all hunt? I'm sure y'all do. You're in Alaska, right? If something's moving from left to right, it picks up your eye better versus coming straight towards you. It's a smaller movement. So if you know where you're going, find it, move directly towards it with less left and right movement to and from that position. You're going to stand out less as well. So lower you can get, and the more direct in line with that item or that target you're going to, the less signature you're going to get off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, move directly towards it or away from it, right? So if you have the option, you're like, shit, I see where they're at, but I can't go where I'm going. Low crawl or whatever movement, go directly back until you get a veg block we talked about earlier. Then you get behind that and recock all your shit hit your map again. You're like, cool, I'm gonna hit this ditch and do whatever. That way I can pop back up and go directly at it again instead of moving laterally in the open versus getting busted or, risk getting busted when I can just hit that terrain feature, a hill, a draw, a finger, or a big veg block. I can just walk across it to where now I'm in the open again, trying to make my shot. I can go directly at it again. So.
Yeah.
Kind of think like velociraptors, you get like straight in front of it. They can't, but if you move left and right, they see you in the movements. Or not velociraptors. Shit, what's that damn movie? Vin Diesel, when he's in the dark, you get directly in front of it. They can't see him, but he moves to the left and the right. They see him in total darkness or some shit.
So, is that what it was?
Showing my age on here, but yeah.
Pitch
if
black?
you're like moving straight towards something, you see less of it, right? Imagine a deer walking away from you or towards you, how much it doesn't stick up at 200 yards. But if he's moving left and right, how broadside, like, perfect, too easy, I see it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So a huge part of that obviously is, I think it kind of goes without being said, you got to have some pretty good land nav skills, because you'll need to know where you're going and looking at terrain features and different stuff like that, and then also understanding if you're moving straight in on the straight in on the point of interest.
A huge one. Do you think Carlos Hathcock and all them dudes in Vietnam were they got selected for being a sniper because they could shoot good? Nah, them dudes knew the woods.
Yeah.
No, they're like, hey, this dude knows the jungle,
Yeah, for sure. Sweet. What do you think about like as far as terrain and different things kind of in that same vein? What are some terrain features that you'd want to stay away from? Obviously open areas would probably be one. But what are some other things that you'd say just avoid when you're planning in different
areas of
like
interest? If people are going to frequent an area, or you see like trash and debris there that like in a campfire, right? Then you're like, oh shit. If it's an area where people are going to walk past you and to happen to stumble across you, absolutely avoid that. I like to look and think and train in like that Vietnam War mentality, like stay off trails. Like if you handrail roads, you can expect to get blown up. Like dudes are going to do that. It happens in JRTC all the time because guys do that. You go land nav, you find a road, like I'm going to bump off a few meters. I'm going to parallel this road. What do you think is that? Booby trapped, right? Yeah. So it's kind of MP co-op and MD co-op, most probable course of action, most dangerous course of action. We know dudes are going to handrail roads because they're not that good at land nav. So they're just going to find the road, walk down it, and look at the map, find intersection, do whatever. You can expect booby traps. And our ground sensors and our something else are just the LPOP out there. And you might not see them. They're like, shit, here they are. All right, cool. And they'll just radio up. Hey, man, we got a 6-man element walking by. Thought to avoid that. Any kind of water sources are kind of a picky one, right? Because it's going to bring wildlife. You can disturb the wildlife, which, if you're sitting in the middle of the woods hunting or doing whatever, and you see a bunch of shit get disturbed, it may not be an enemy combatant, but something just happened there and it draw interest to it, right?
Yeah.
And if these guys are bored, nothing happened, they're going to, they might just send a patrol out. So anything that where you might get stumbled across, roads, shit like that, I would avoid it, man, for sure.
Yeah.
And if it's just such an impassable thing, like the lone survivor where you just fall off the cliff for 90 hours, like, yeah, I mean, if you can't avoid it, by all means, man, don't go rock climbing when you can take a different route, like, I mean, think about it. Like, if you get to your place, but you're so exhausted because regardless of how good a shape you're in or not, but if you get, I mean, if you're just so exhausted getting there and you're not a rock climber, like, and it takes you 7 hours to get there and the guy's only going to be there for an hour, your HVT or whatever your mission is, then yeah, I mean, obviously you got to look at that. I'm not saying sound like a lazy bitch, but damn, dude, like, if you can just not go rock climbing, and find an alternate route, kind of one of those things.
I mean, you don't want to zap your physical resources, like.
Correct, right? You blow out all your water because you took no one will ever find me here, but I went through all my water in an hour, and this mission's 4 days long.
Yeah,
right.
Just like
there's a happy medium of everything. So oh, no one will ever see me because I low crawled through this tunnel system that's that took all my resources and all my chow and water to my body to function. Now, I made it to the objective, but I'm. I felt like an Auschwitz survivor and I can't function or even dial in or use a radio or whatever,
Yeah.
So.
Yep. No one will ever find you because you'll be dead in your little Overwatch position.
Then they're Skeletored out. You're just like, man, this sucks. So, yeah.
What about terrain that's
Again, I hate to say it, but yeah, it's one of those vague terms that you need to learn to read terrain, your team, and stuff like that, and cross-load stuff. And I heard a pretty valuable tip the other day, man, which is kind of, sniper teams, they operate in certain things where a lot of guys are like, we're going to put, say it's a 3-man team with a third of the radio batteries in this one, a third of the chow in this one, a third of whatever. And a lot of them are like, no, we're not doing that. In case we have to break contact, we can ditch these 2 rucks, put unimportant shit in these, and then the third ruck is full of all the important shit. So if you do have to E&E, you just dump 2 rucks. Fuck it, let them have it. We don't give a shit. It's good on the mission, but not mission essential. But in that third ruck's all the mission essential shit, and we all carry stuff. Versus if it's cross-loaded a third between 3 people, you have to carry all those trucks. Now it's heavier. But if you can put all the really important shit, missing essential and shit like that in one, you can ditch the other 2. Now you have 3 dudes carrying 1 ruck around, right? That make sense?
Yeah, that's smart.
If you have to E&E, because you're already tired, you already fucking wore out. Now you got to fucking haul ass cross country. You're like, hey man, you carry the ruck for an hour, and I'll carry for an hour, and you carry for an hour, and go back and forth. So if you can, again, that's a whole nother conversation, but cross-load your shit to where 1 ruck, no matter fucking what. If we got a bug out right now, we're taking this one and leaving those fucking 2. We're talking sleeping bags and dumb shit and lickies and all that crap like that we can live without. We're going to be miserable. We can live without. Leave all that. But all the mission essential shit is in this 1 ruck. No matter what, we grab this one. We put a piece of green duct tape around the handle. Grab that one. Haul out. The other 2, they can fucking have them. Fuck my sleeping bag. Fuck my woobie. They can have it. And then that way, y'all are carrying 1 ruck, E&E and bag. Mission's over, dude. Fuck them. So that's another thing to think about too. How to set up your team's equipment and gear. So if you're trying to E&E and y'all have your big ass rucks and all the way there, you're like, fuck. E&E and you have a fucking armed force chasing you. Is what I mean by that. You're like, we need to cover some damn ground.
Yeah. So. For those of you that are doing trigonometry to try to figure out what E&E means, it's escape and evade. So. There you go.
For reeling me back in.
No worries,
So
man.
I hope that 1 important ruck system makes sense.
That's super smart.
We talk about some other SOPs, how teams stuff, which is standard operating procedures. I was like, yeah, that's kind of smart, man. Like, we cross-load the guy, got a third, so we leave. Everything's important. I'm like, fuck that. We have 1 ruck. It's the holy grail. Never leave it. The other 2, we can just ditch them. I'm like, damn, that's fucking smart.
That's super smart. That's the first time I've heard of that, actually. That's a really smart way. And you're saying in third, so I'm guessing you're talking about basing this on that kind of more modern sniper team, that 3-man team, yeah.
Yeah, 3-man team. Imagine there's 3 rucks, right? And 2 rucks are sleeping bags and other non-essential items that you can live without. And that 1 ruck that's your commo stuff, that's your this, that's your that you cannot live without. And now you can probably distribute chow a little differently, where have some in each, but like mission that 1 ruck, no matter what we're hauling ass is coming with this. The other 2, fuck it, they can have our spare MREs. We're just gonna have less calories. It's gonna suck, but we're probably just have less. So non-mission essential shit can get ditched to save weight. Now y'all can cross-load and haul ass, and as you're cruising, be like, I'm out. So
sick.
Yeah, I heard that when I was like, damn, that's smart as shit.
Yeah. This is kind of slightly off of what I was going to ask next, but I'm just curious. What do you guys mainly teach for your 3-man structure? Is it the sniper, spotter, and then like a support guy, or what's kind of your structure there for a 3-man element?
Sniper, spotter, team leader, typically.
Okay. Cool. Sweet.
But now, with that said, like, everyone knows everyone's job.
Yeah.
This guy isn't married to the gun. That guy's not married to a spot and skill. Everyone knows everything. It's just kind of that's the doctrinal sniper, spotter, team leader. But yeah, a spotter is typically just as good at shooting or spotting as a sniper, vice versa with the team leader, so on and so forth.
That TL guys usually got some more experience.
So y'all all better be good at the radio and everything else, right? And then another thing too, if you can say a 3-man team, right? Let's just say you bring 1 Magnum bolt gun, talking just military, right? You have a Mark 22 to 300 Norma, and the other guy has an M110 and 308, and the team leader has an M4-ish type platform. all three of them dudes better shoot all three of those guns. That whole, it's not zero to me, that's all fucking stupid. The gun's mechanically zero to hit that at 100 yards, right? So this guy might be like, hey, I'm hopping on his gun for 2 hours. I'm going to do 2 clicks on the cheek piece because it's more comfortable for me. But then when he gets off of it, he knows vice versa. So, like, if you're going to run in that type of environment, y'all should all shoot each other's guns and know how things work. Oh, this guy's really, really fucking long, so one of the pulls all jacked up. But now when I hop on it, I got to go down. You can paint pen it if you wanted to. The red mark is for Bob. The green mark on the paint pen is for Larry, and whatever, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But everybody better shoot everybody's gun and know what the hell to do with it, because you're not bringing 3 Mark 22s and 3 110s and 3 M4s to hide sight. You're bringing one of each. Absolutely. And y'all better shoot each other's guns and know where they do all that stuff. So,
yeah, man, that's solid. I think that's probably good advice in general for any small unit, like even beyond that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not sniper stuff. Like, oh, we're in a 3-man cell. Okay, cool. My gun shoot the bed. I've never shot this guy's gun ever before, but we're together for 2 years. That's silly. Why would you not shoot his gun and go, oh, what if mine shit the bed and he's dead?
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's a pretty extreme scenario, but we're talking pretty extreme scenarios. So,
yeah. Yeah.
So getting back into terrain a little bit, we talked about terrain to kind of stay away from, and you got into it a little bit talking about veg block, and then also using, terrain for cover, like moving through a riverbed or something like that.
Sure.
What are some other terrain features you're looking for that, at least on a map, you're like, oh yeah, this is giving me a good thought for a route right here?
So we're looking for, again, like I said, you want to avoid places that are heavily frequented by people, right?
Yep.
So if you have like man-made features such as buildings and stuff like that, you want to, if you can, avoid those, because I mean, think about just the normal guy walking around. He's just walking his dogs and he stumbles across something, right? So if you could avoid population, that's nice. Fingers and draws, that's up and down, up and down. So for every 200 yards you travel linearly, you're also doing 400 yards up and down.
Yeah.
So now you got to think about time, right? Is your mission time sensitive, or is it something else, right? So now you're eating up your time going up. Think about going up and down a ladder case 15 times, but only move 50 yards, but you've gone 200 yards up and down.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. Another thing too, sniper wise, that we like to look at is bridges. And we train a lot of our dudes, and we got with the engineers, and we get our snipers to look at bridges and say, hey man, that bridge right there, what vehicle can it support? Like, that bridge can support an LMTV, a Humvee, and probably another like MRAP. It will not support a tank. So if you're a military guy, you're like, okay, cool, tanks cannot back me up here. So if I get enemy tanks up my ass, they cannot come from this bridge. So looking at those type features like bridges and other stuff and road type structures and going, okay, cool, the most I can get from here is going to be an MRAP, which what can an MRAP carry? 50 cal Mark 19, right? That's going to be my QRF. If you're going up against tanks and knowing damn good and well that those guys can't get there, so like, what are your assets, right? So if you have a bridge that can't support what you need to save your ass, you better be really, really good with the guys who fly airplanes and helicopters to save your ass too. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then if you have no support assets at all in that kind of a world, then you better really understand how to utilize your terrain to get the heck out of there if you need to.
Yeah, for sure, right? So yeah, if you can haul ass and ditch it, and that kind of comes back to some other stuff. If you have a river between you and your E&E point, is your gear constantly waterproof? So if you jump in with that one ruck that you're all going to save, is it waterproof? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? There's ways to waterproof ruck, but they float regardless how heavy they are, because water and buoyancy, it's a whole other topic. But yeah, how we make sure we keep this ruck packed up and ready to, or we just stuff the outside pockets full of pool noodles so it floats, but tested prior. So if we have to, for working in an area, even in Iraq, there's rivers there too. I worked along Euphrates for a long time. So it's like, if we got to throw this ruck in and paddle across, will my ruck float or will it weigh us down? So other stuff like that, packing your gear appropriately to get out of Dodge and shit like that. But that goes down to terrain features. When we have a river pool, now we have to worry about water. Yeah. About to haul out. Like point A to point B, I'm getting the shit out of there. I got that save your holy grail ruck that was all our mission essential stuff that we had to get out of there. But if I hit the water now with 90 pounds, but there's no buoyancy to it, we should probably at least just test it, right? Let's just throw some. Maybe the batteries in your ruck are good, right? The real one, but we get some dead batteries, and we'll half-ass pack it to see what it's going to do. Then we'll chunk that in the water and see what it does. You're like, oh my, it sinks really fast, right?
Yeah.
So if you're willing to ditch all your radios and spare ammo and E&E them, it's a pretty bad day. But I mean, that's something to thinking, again, terrain features. If you have a river that you have to swim across with your gear, not get your ankles wet, but like swim across.
Yeah.
Now you got to reconsolidate all your gear. Like, are you going to go across the bridge? There's not a bridge unguarded in any hostile country during wartime. So bridges are pretty much out. You got to fight your way across them. So are you going to hunker down, call QRF? Are you going to try and bug out across it? But now your ruck's too heavy. So that's terrain features. That's a big one. Water's a huge one, man.
Yeah.
Water stops almost all vehicles as well. Track, wheeled, everything, and stuff that can negotiate water usually can't negotiate land. So you're gonna have a boat QRF, that can only push from the boat. So that's another thing. Water's a huge terrain feature to kind of figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, and you may not have time. Like, I know when I was in, we did like poncho rafts and things like that with our rucks. But if you're talking about boogieing out quick, you're not gonna have time to do that probably. I mean, it depends on how close that water
I
is.
line my whole entire ruck with a trash bag, like the Big Daddy Brawny. He's got his flannel on, flannel daddied out, and he
big.
That's
Brawny.
what I would actually encompass my entire main body of the ruck with all that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's what I use that. You're going to poke a hole in it, man. So it's going to happen. They're disposable, but they're hell to damn are as durable as the poncho out of this shoot. So
yeah,
especially brawny.
Right?
No, but that's an OG trick right there, man. That's like a tried and true, the old trash bag, man. You got to have one in the ruck.
Yep.
Carry spares, man. I mean, that's what I did. I had a modified Alice, so instead of having like the 3 pocket, had 6, and one of them was just spare trash bags.
Nice.
Yep. Getting into gear, since we're kind of talking about packs and stuff, you talked about I think you were talking about drag bags and things like that. A lot of people don't even know what that is. Do you want to break that down? And if that's even relevant
so drag
anymore?
Bag, man. Think about a weapons case that's super, super durable. They don't serve a lot of purpose outside of a schoolhouse now because guys aren't like low crawling on the positions anymore. It's just not a thing. But schoolhouse, you're gonna have to do it anyway. And it's, again, if you can defeat trained instructors on their home turf, like we know those places inside and out. So if you can defeat them naked eye, I think it's a good training reference point that you can defeat the naked eye pretty good, right? So we train these over and over again, and we know where guys are typically go. We know the terrain, because we either walk it or observe it, so we know it pretty good. Yes, we have an extreme home field advantage, but if you can defeat that, you're doing really, really good, right?
Yeah.
So a drag bag is like a weapons case made out of canvas or cloth, and you'll have your gun in there, typically your sniper system in there. Real world, you would have your M4 in your hand and our pistol, but your like sniper rifle would be in that drag bag. And that drag bag will think about like a trailer attached to a truck. Yeah. And then you can use tubular nylon and our paracord knotted up, and you run that from the front of that drag bag, and you clip it on the D-ring of your rigger's belt. And then you'll crawl, and it's a bag that you drag behind you. And so that's where that comes from.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, I think it's a concept that would be I think should be implemented if you're being like a modern Minuteman. Obviously, you're only doing that in the schoolhouse, in the modern sniper kind of like what you guys are teaching. You guys are having to do it there, but that's because it's a very effective method to get on site without being seen, like you said, in your own home turf. Like the people that are doing counter sniper work, like looking for the person sneaking into the objective, it's an effective way to move and not be, because I don't know if anyone's ever tried to low crawl with a rifle, it sucks.
Yeah.
Especially from a long distance.
If you think modern Minuteman, you're fighting dudes in their backyard.
Yep.
So those little knick-knack things, I think Skull Dragon with a drag bag is probably more advantageous in a Minuteman situation than it is defeating thermal.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to set set of naked eyes,
Yeah.
but not everyone's got thermals, right?
Yep.
So for that situation, then think about a few months into it, they've already ran out of batteries and or something else for, pick whatever scenario you're going for. If you're going for that, the Minuteman solution thing, right, against other people who are, I guess, equally kind of trained, whatever, unless they just have like a pile of 1, 2, 3s, their thermals ain't gonna last that long, man.
Yeah.
But the naked eyes are still there, dude. So that's where we're like, what? How are we not training against thermal? Well, one, I work at the schoolhouse and it says not to. Well, it doesn't say not to, but our POI, period of instruction, says do this. That's what we're doing. So we're binded by these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of us on our off time, we're looking into other stuff too. But if you can't defeat naked eye, you're not defeating thermal in the first place. So let's defeat naked eye first. But because everyone's got those.
Sure,
So.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we get asked a lot. I'd say it's up there among one of our top questions about, how would you set up what would be a sniper setup? And it's like, well, we're going to have to think about that and work on that. And then also talk to other people that have more experience in that. But something we kept landing on was, guys are like, how would you set up a sniper chest rig? That's like a big one we get often. And it's like, man, I think you're looking at it in the wrong way. And the more Steven and I have played around with it and looked at it, it's like the whole drag bag solution. I mean, you can put it on if you need to, but yeah, you can detach and use some tubular nylon and like you said, skull drag, do what you need to do. But then you can have all your stuff set up in that bag, all of your support equipment and stuff like that. I mean, not all of it, obviously. If you got rucks and stuff, you'd probably have to ditch that somewhere and, just those are just patrol basics. But as far as like the support for specifically the sniper platform, and having a setup for that something like that to me makes sense. I was curious what your thoughts were on that.
So I run a Hill People kit bag up front.
Yep.
And that's my main bag. I run there's a lot of stuff in there. One big thing I have in there is range finding binos. I compete with it. I do a lot of field matches and sniper matches. I run rangefinder binos up front with some other knickknack stuff. I don't run anything on my kit, on my belt. I run it off the 180 on the back part. That way I can crawl and do stuff with it. So like my closest pistol mag is like center line, like on my hip on the left, kind of where my pistol would be. So my whole front of my my belt's clean. And the Hill People kit bag, I wear it really, really high. So if I go prone, it's not disturbing me.
Yeah.
And then everything else is either in another bag or something like that. But yeah. And you can still crawl and drag with the Hill People on there. I've run that. And you can throw your ruck on there and it's undisturbed as well.
Nice.
So that's how I run it.
Sweet. What are some kind of essential things
I think a lot of I just think a lot of dudes run too much shit for sniper stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna bring 500 rounds. You're like, dog, what are you doing? Like 500 like sniper rounds? No, bring 40 sniper rounds and bring 460 M4 rounds in case you got to break contact. Like,
yeah. That kind of goes right into what I was about to ask. But what are some kind of essential or basic loadouts that you would say would be important as a sniper, kind of as far as what you run in your experience?
So, I mean, team loadout can go a multitude of different directions, right? So I guess we'll just talk about the 3-man team where you got that one bolt action slower to fire, but you have a bigger caliber where you can get either further range or deeper penetration, right? So you have that, let's just say a Magnum, right? Win Mag, PRC, 300 Norma, whatever. You have that slow rate of fire, but you're going to make up for it in terminal ballistics. And then you're going to have the other guy who's running a heavier gas gun, just say 308 gas gun or something along those lines. And then the other guy's running a M4-ish, 16-inch gas gun. And then you can play it however. Me personally, if I were to go boog out and do anything like that, I'm running a 14.5 to an 18-inch, so probably a 16-inch gas gun with a mid-ish power scope, 2 to 20, 3 to 18, 3 to 15, somewhere around there. That's what I'm going to run, man. Like, you have to, modern day Minuteman, you have to get PID. You can't just start assassinating people because you become the terrorist. Like, you're trying to win your people over because you're the good guy, and you start dropping dudes without knowing who they are. So, you can shoot really far with a 300 Norma mag, but can you PID that guy? Like, by that I mean positive identify him. Like, no, you fucking can't. So, like, why are you bringing this big ass Norma mag to shoot this dude from a mile away? You don't know who it is. Like, that, you're stupid. Like, run a run a Mark 12 ish type gun and do work with that. It'll be really accurate, and you can clear a room with it, and you can, like, shoot long range with it if you train. So
Yeah.
that's another thing too. People are like, oh, 5.56 not effective. Like, no, the ammo, you're running a 55 grain bullshit. So yeah, you're not going to shoot really far with it. But you run some match grade 69 or 77s or 75s in there. Yeah, now you have an effective platform. Out to better than you train to. I went and shot the other day with some buddies. He has a 223 bolt gun. We shot to 1,000 all day, executive. 0.6 MOA group at a grand. 223. Yep, pretty terrible cartridge, right? But yeah, no, it's just what bullet load. What are you doing? What do you There's so many factors, but yeah. But that's my take on it, man. There's so many things how you're going to load out what you're doing. But I mean, if I were to run a dude, like, yeah, like I wouldn't even run a 308 gas gun. Oh, I say that. Everything depends, but like, there's just so many factors that depend what you're loading out, what you're doing. That just I don't have that one particular thing. The military, it's really easy to customize and say this because the inventory is so small.
Yeah,
you're gonna have you have a big bolt action, or you have a 308 gas gun, M4s. You all get pistols. Boom, make it work. They just figure it out. But in theory, everyone just ran Mark 12s and hung out there because you're going to watch an intersection from 300 yards away. Perfect.
Yeah, right.
But the Army don't run Mark 12s anymore. It's just it's kind of one of those things. You're like, well, shit.
Why don't they?
There's just a lot of things like modern day Minuteman guy. Like, how far away are you trying to PID and kill this guy from? What did he do? Because I mean, no offense, like if he's not posable hostile act, hostile intent. Now how far do you want to commit this murder from, right? Because the law still exists. So it's like, how far gone is your world that you're in? Does law and order does not exist anymore? So I don't know.
Well, that's why.
See what I'm saying? Like, you gotta go in this legal thing. Like, well, I'm gonna go drop this dude. I need to be able to kill someone from a 1,500 yards away. You're like, well, where's the hostile act, hostile intent, right?
Yeah.
To cover yourself legally. So that's how far gone is your world. So that scenario that happens 2 days after ground zero doesn't apply from 60 days after ground zero. Yeah. So it's the whole slippery slope. Yeah, if I can have more standoff and shoot someone from further away, I would love that. But can I legally, morally, and ethically do that? No. Well, I don't know. Can I? So that's where that whole thing kind of comes into.
No, I am so happy you went there because I think that's a pretty clear, I don't even want to say misunderstanding. It's just kind of a maybe just a naive way that it's looked at. You're just kind of over justifying, like, okay, well, if I've got this bolt gun, I need to justify its use in this mission. And it's like, I mean, I think all the things you pointed out were spot on. And that's why we say often, like the benefit or the I guess really the good stuff that you're getting out of these skills and out of this discipline and even out of that team structure, that sniper cell structure, isn't the ability to go assassinate some dude at just below a mile. It's the ability to stay undetected and observe your environment and possibly practice area denial if you need to, making it harder for elements to maneuver, like that are obviously hostile. Those are the benefits that you're going to get out of it. It's not so much the shooter Mark Wahlberg style, like I'm going to shoot this guy. Right. You know what I mean? So I think it's, those capabilities can be worked on and had, and I think they only make you better at the other things. But I'm glad you pointed those things out because it's like what you kept saying, how far gone is your world? And I think that's a really smart way to think because, I mean, one of the more realistic scenarios that gets brought up often is like supply chain collapse, economy fails, people are just, riot and just pillaging in the streets. Again, morally, are you going to sit up on a rooftop somewhere and just snipe people as they're running around in the streets? Like, that doesn't sound like you're going to be viewed as a good guy, So that's probably not the way you want to go.
I say this like not to sound cool, but like I live in Southwest Louisiana, dude. We go through a natural disaster, man, 2-3 times a year.
Yeah.
I went without power for 62 days. I was running off a generator. Like, I've lived through some pretty, like, right now we currently have record wildfires. We're in a drought, but all the hurricane damage from all the trees is still in the ground, but it dried out. And now we have wildfires that these dudes are coming from out of state. The smoke jumper dude's like, man, we can handle y'all shit. Y'all got too much brush. So we're just on our 17th natural disaster this year. So we're just kind of like, huh. So like where I'm at, like we're pretty used to natural disasters. So that's why I asked, like, how far gone through your world?
Right.
Like I've been through a bunch of those, and you know, like I was deployed during Katrina, but that shit got spicy. But I've been through Laura and some other hurricanes and some other natural disasters. But like at what point, granted, that's small, you know, I guess low hanging fruit to compare to like a full fledged other thing, if you will. But again, like how far gone through a world? Because a guy, if Hurricane Laura hit, and you're like, I'm gonna start sniping people. You're like, whoa, man, like you need to go to jail. Like no offense, but if it's like, something way different where you're like, hey man, there's no government. There's like, how far gone is it? That can really determine other things. So I don't know. It's better to have and not need, I guess. But at the same time, like there's 1,000 other things to focus on too, versus like, oh, I need to make that shot. And by the time you make that shot, how have you stored that ammo? Have you stayed up on it? What are your wind calls like? You know, like, so shooting a mile is, we did it the other day and I had 4 spotters. and with current ammo and everything, I had 4 spotters help me shoot to a mile. And I was like, I got this, guys, like, help me out. You know, it's not an easy thing. So like, for you to be like, sit out there and lick your finger and hold it up in the wind, be like, I'm going to send it to a mile. That's unrealistic expectations if you're not really that good of a shooter. Like, we all took turns shooting to a mile once we all got it dialed on as a 5-man team. We're like, cool, now we got it. And then we all did it. But that was perfect conditions. They were unchanging with ammo. So, again, realistic expectations of what you're going to do. Can a 300 normal shoot to a mile? Yeah. Can you?
Right.
Like, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't consider that, you know, once you make that decision to send that round, you know, I mean, if you're in a world where that's what you're doing, you're talking like Ukraine, Russia type thing. Like it's a full blown, like you're operational, it's kinetic, you know, which again, what are the odds of that? But we'll humor it. So if you were in that world, a lot of people don't consider that you can't put that genie back in the bottle once it's gone. Like you send that shot, there's a whole series of events that's going to start to happen, and it's going to be done by, you know, an enemy force that, you know, may or may not in this this unknown force. But again, using the Ukraine Russia example, like it's not going to be like they don't know what to do. They're going to start their series of trying to find you, indirect fire, you know, trying to identify where you're coming. Like it's going to be a unstoppable force that starts in your direction if you haven't done your job right. So just being trigger finger itchy and ready to take the shot, you know, just because you can is not necessarily the way to go either, especially when you have
no, exactly. I mean, we have technology even in the U.S. where we were countering like mortars for IDF where we can see where it came from, like distance, location, direction, like instantly.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're doing that in the U.S. as a private citizen, you think the force that took your shit over is retarded and doesn't have that? You're fucking out of your mind, dude.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, like even way back in 2011 when I was in Afghanistan, dude, like you had the boomerang, you know? I don't know if you guys still use them or not, but that thing could straight up tell you where shots are coming from. Direction, distance.
Right. Like every Russian soldier, I'm exaggerating, but like a large number of Russian soldiers have little like things in their helmets that tell you direction. If someone hits you with a PEC 15 or a laser, it'll be like laser left. You're like, oh shit, someone's fucking about to shoot at me. Like technology is insane, right? And we see the drone stuff now too, right? So there's just so many other technology advances. So I think the days of like laying behind a gun and shooting the dude from a mile is like gone. Like I think the larger calibers recreationally are cool to shoot far. I'm like, woo, shot a mile and you high five. Yep. But I think those larger magnum calibers are going to be reserved for like defensive positions. Like, oh, there's a vehicle coming. Let's blow through the windshield and kill the driver. Oh, it's up armored. You know, like barrier penetration from closer distances. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of to caveat on that, what would you say that modern mission of the sniper is today? with all those things considered?
I'm not super into all that stuff. I don't mean like to sound like disrespectful. I don't have that answer, right? So what we say and what we judge with a sniper is a guy who can think on his feet and figure shit out. So all your snipers, regardless of unit where you are, whether you're a civilian in a group doing whatever, and our military unit or law enforcement, your selection process for your snipers for guys who can think outside the box and figure shit out. It should be your thinkers. Yes, you should be physically fit, but I think a lot of military units fuck that up where they just haze the fuck out of these kids and they're like, oh shit, he can't run fucking 17 miles in 5 minutes. Fail at that, but he's really, really smart and can figure stuff and think on his feet. I think your snipers of anything should 100% be your guys who are ingenuitive and can come up with solutions and think on their feet and go, oh fuck, that's a good idea. And then who's also, me personally, a very personal person who can go to another unit, but like, hey man, we suck at calling for fire, or we suck at land nav, or we suck at radios. And he goes, hey man, that's what I did when I was a sniper team leader. We had guys who were really weak at radios. So I went to the commo shop and I was like, hey guys, can y'all come shoot our sniper rifles? And you're going to teach a class in trade on how to redo all this new radio stuff. Of course, all the commo guys were like, yeah, dude. So they brought them in the range and they shot our 110, they shot our 2010s and shot our 50s. We're like, woo! And then they busted out all the latest, greatest commo stuff. We're like, yeah, this matters in the manual and says it does, but it actually doesn't. Clear skies, this helps. Cloudy days, this is better. And those guys, that's their bread and butter, man. They're good at their job. You want to call them a pogue? You want to call them a fucking loser? No, they fucking logistics win wars, and talking is logistics. So we would do that. I would invite people out from other MOSs that helped us, and we would go do that. Network, man. Yeah. Your snipers should be networkers and all that stuff. That's in any facet, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I was cool as shit with the cooks too. You know, snipers got the best food. I'm like, what's up, guys? Hey, what's going on? Can shoot sniper rifles? Cool.
Yeah.
Hope y'all cooking tonight.
Yeah.
So,
Let's get that steak.
Absolutely, man. Like, network, dude. Your snipers should be your free thinkers, your networkers, your guys who can think on their feet and figure stuff out. Yes, physical fitness is a real, real thing, but it shouldn't be like a lot of military. They just haze these kids to death and like, oh, this guy's really in good shape, and he's just dumb as fuck, man, and he's an asshole.
Yeah,
and you're just like, no, we can get you in shape, but we can't change your frontal lobe. You're an adult. You've already developed that. Like, that's your personality. We need good personality. We can get you in shape, man.
Yeah.
I think your tryout should be a lot more like, this guy a good dude? Where's his moral compass point?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, like, you should be a good dude that's willing to get in shape. I'm not saying throw a bunch of fat ass turds out there, but I'm saying they should focus more on your tryout selection process of, he's a good dude. Can he network? Can he get shit done? Is he competent and other stuff? Like a teachable blank canvas, like a guy who wants to learn, is willing to learn, and can learn. Fuck, dude, that's a good thing, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, man, we're about to go. You know, you're going to Afghanistan, you're rough around mountains. You should probably get in really good shape. And he's like, shit. And you look out there next day, and the dude's got a backpack on at 5 a.m. just running in the middle of the dark with a headlamp on. You're like, damn, he's getting it. Why? Because he wants to be there. Get some dudes who want to be there for the right reasons.
Right.
You know, don't promise him glory. I don't promise you shit. I'll promise you a lot of really cold, shitty nights in the dark in Louisiana. And in September at Fort Polk, you good? He's like, oh yeah, it'd be awesome. Because you go to sniper school, you don't get a tab, you don't get anything. You just literally get the title of sniper, but no one ever knows because you don't get a tab. And we're actually having a conversation last week. We're this, aside from special operations and stuff like that, we're the second longest and the second hardest school, but we don't receive shit. Like Ranger is longer and harder, they get a tab. Sapper gets a tab. Airborne badge, Pathfinder badge, air assault badge. You know, like dive school badge. Everyone gets one. Sniper, not a fucking thing.
That's weird. That is actually weird. Hey,
it's not weird. You want me to explain it?
Yeah. I'd love it.
Name one school that officers can't go to out of all those.
Oh, is it so?
Yeah, who approves tabs and badges?
Officers.
All right. So yeah.
Hey, there you go.
We're in a listed only school.
Hey, it's on your ERB, brother.
Yeah, right. It is what it is. And I while I would love to wear a sniper cap and uniform, it is what it is. It keeps, again, that out. The dudes who are just coming for the tap, keep that out. So everyone who's lining up the door, and like we have yet, since I've been there that I know of, we've been over strength every class. So obviously something there. So dudes are coming for skills, which is cool, man, right?
That is way cool. Yeah.
Everyone goes to airsoft for just the badge. Dude, shut the fuck up. You don't give a shit. You want the badge, you're dipping out. We got it. We're cool with that.
Yeah.
Sniper, you don't get a tab. You're coming for the skills and the community, which I think is one of the best communities in the world. I don't know how many like actual school trained dudes y'all have met. Most of them, a large percentage, I'll put it in the upper 90s, are some really cool dudes, man. It's a tiny fucking world.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, the military in general is pretty small, but when you start getting into those niche, communities and schoolhouse communities and stuff like that, I can only imagine that it gets just super tight. So, but yeah, I wanted to jump back. So I think I can better rephrase what my question was. So you said, you made the comment that you think the days of laying behind the rifle and taking those long shots are coming to an end or close to over. So I guess what I was trying to ask is, where do you see the focus now? Is it more for like intelligence gathering, reconnaissance kind of stuff, for the overall like sniper mission? That's probably how I should ask that question.
Okay, yeah. So from a military standpoint, right? If I want to, like, if that team is going to inflict violent fires on this other force, say at a mile away, right? Am I going to send a 250 grain or 215 grain bullet at him, or am I going to pick up my radio and shoot at him? That I get air on station, right? So which one's more effective, right? So even if I connect with him, I kill one dude, right?
Yep.
But if I pick up my radio and call in mortars, artillery, airstrike, whatever, which one's more devastating, right? So there's that for that long range stuff. Does that make sense? I just pick up my radio can do so much more than my 300 Norma can. So even if I did everything right, there's a shit ton of variables in there, or I can pick up some other piece of equipment and go pink, hit a button, it'll tell me how far away it is, and given the grid to it, I pick up my radio and say, hey, these assholes are all really, really bad. Let's just blow all of them at once.
Yeah.
And it happened, and now I have a mortar hitting. Or a piece of artillery or airstrike, whatever. I have other means. My radio is more lethal at longer range than my rifle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Now, the modern day Minuteman, you don't have a fucking radio. I'm sorry, you're done. People are like, oh, these are your bow fanes and this one. They're all fucked. You're not going to have any of them. You're going to run out of batteries. They're all fucked. They're going to break. You don't have fucking radios. I think it's cool that people understand how important communication is, but in reality, I think it's all going to fucking break, dude.
It might, yeah. I mean, if it's something you haven't considered, and you don't have like sufficient logistical support for it, then absolutely, Yeah,
if you can't support a radio, even the military, they still struggle to this day.
Oh, yeah.
We're the biggest, powerful military in the world, but we still struggle every day because there would be like timelines built in. Hey, it's Thursday at XYZ time, we're all going to change crypto. I don't think a civilian can own an encrypted radio currently. I'm that's not my cup of tea, but is that right?
You can. You have to go through some. I mean, you can do anything, but it's not legal. But
okay. Well,
but
see
you
where
can,
I'm going, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Legally, a civilian can't do that. So there's other things. You start keying up on unencrypted radio, it's illegal. They're just gonna fucking pull a plug. You're fucked. So that's where I think, man. I think a lot of stuff's gonna get pulled real quick. You think during a scenario in which you're sniping people, your radios are gonna work? I don't.
Yeah, no.
Those waves are going to be so controlled and so monitored. Like, we don't recognize this shit. Cut his ass off, dude. I think communication is the most important thing out there. But if you're not the dudes pulling plugs to fucking kill radio frequencies and other stuff, you're just not going to have it in the first place, man.
Yeah, or even worse, they're going to be using your signal to figure out where you're at and just
ordering you. Yeah, there's that. so yeah, they're like, oh, I'm encrypted. No, you're encrypted for a few fucking things.
Yeah.
You think Big Brother can't find out? Get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the wrong mentality too. Usually, that some people have that for the kind of the modern Minuteman thing, and I don't think it equates well to fighting like fully technologically advanced like standard fighting forces. like, I guess I'm saying I think it's a misunderstanding that, the whole modern Minuteman mission is going to be fighting a symmetrical or a more conventional fighting force. I'm not saying you can't do that, but more to your point, Luke, as far as you were talking about, comms and stuff, I think the point you're trying to make is like, if you're in a world where you're having to like snipe people from super far away, but you're trying to use comms as a civilian, it's like the military has a hard enough time maintaining comms logistics. It's going to be a lot harder for an 8-man element. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. One of the questions I had for you is, you've been talking about an E&E quite a bit. What would that look like for, just to break it down easier, I guess we can talk about like from what I assume you guys do that in the, through your sniper school. I assume that's something you guys practice. What would that look like?
What do you mean? Like, so again, E&E unit dependent is very different. Like when I was a contractor in Afghanistan, I had a bag I carried with me, which was like maps for how to get to the fucking airport if I have to fucking bug out, right? Which, no shit, I worked in Kabul, so it wasn't that far-fetched to have that, and you saw how that went down.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there for when the whole fall went down, but we all had E&E like kits and bags and cash and bribe stuff and extra mag to get the fuck out to the airport to buy a fucking ticket to get the shit going, right?
Yeah.
So E&E is going to be very different from everything, right? So, like, do you need plane tickets, like pre-staged if you're in Colombia, like with fucking Tom Berenger? Right. So it's going to vary everything, right? Again, it's so vague on what it is, but mission essential equipment, when you need to get out, like, do you have like a radio that can call your pickup, right? So no one's ever going to go land and go do a mission without a pickup plan, right?
Yeah.
So you need a way to have a pickup plan and bug out and do stuff like that. Are you gonna? How many people died during that mission? If you're a 3-man team and 2 of y'all are dead, like, well, what are you leaving behind with you? It's such a vague term. Like when you're E&E, it's what do you bring with you? What are you taking, right? Are you gonna throw on a 110 and a Mark 22 and the M4 and carry them out? Or are you just gonna render them obsolete and just fucking jump on them and break them so the enemy can't have them? It's such a vague term, and I hate to say that to you, but that's where I said earlier in the selection process for that sniper, where he can think on his feet.
Yeah.
Hey man, these 2 dudes are dead. We have 1 fucking MRE left, and I have a fucking 6-click movement back to the point, my pickup point. I can't carry all this shit, so I'm just gonna jump on it and break it so it's useless to anyone else.
Yeah.
So there's no black and white answer for E&E. It's where you're at. What are you doing? I'm not even going to bring up the acronym, but yeah, it's going to really going to determine that, So yeah, if I am about to go walk 6 clicks to go meet my extract point and these 2 dudes are dead, I'm going to break their shit so they can't work it. And I'm going to put a bullet hole in those radios so they're obsolete and their crypto's fucked or whatever. And I'm going to leave everything behind that's not going to aid in that enemy force to put to cause harm on my force, or so yeah, we'll just break all that shit, throw it in the river, take the bolt out and throw it one direction, throw the rifle that one, just damage it all. So there's so many scenarios. That's where I think the sniper selection process should be your free thinkers, your dudes who are super fucking networky and awesome guys that can go thinking on their feet and figure shit out. That's where I think it's really important. Hey, what are you gonna do in this E&E scenario? I don't know, man. Like you can what if the fuck out of it,
Yeah. Which I think that's a fair enough answer. As far as like things getting left behind, are you super concerned about that, or is that something that you're just not even worried about? I mean, obviously you're destroying it, but you're also leaving behind potential information about yourself by leaving that said radio or whatever it may be.
And what aspect do you mean? Like you mean like a United States Army sniper team got compromised, had to leave stuff behind?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just use that as an example.
Well, fuck, they know what guns we have, and if I break my 110, they already know we run 110. So I'm not being anything fucking crazy, right?
Yeah.
So imagine we're on a 3-man sniper team. One guy's got a Mark 22, one guy's got a 110, one's got an M4. But I'm trying to E&E, so I'm not bringing a sniper rifle. I break them all. They're like, oh, look, a U.S. Army sniper team, because these weapons, because we already know, because local nationals work on our base. They sweep the floors. They clean this. They do our laundry. They already fucking know what guns you have.
Yeah.
They already know what fucking everything else. Yeah, that's foolish to think otherwise, in my opinion.
So that comes back to that concept of having that one ruck that you can't leave behind. Like, you can leave your other stuff behind if you have to. Like, if it's and to kind of back up, this would be like a bad, like, this is like, we got to get out of here or we're dead kind of thing. Like, we're leaving this crap because otherwise it's us. But then you got that ruck that you got to take with you to keep you going and keep you,
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Lone survivor falling down the fucking hill type ruck, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
As far as sites, we kind of got into it, but do you find it important to actually build like a hide, or is just knowing your terrain and whatnot more beneficial, I guess?
You can do both. It's going to be determined how long you're there.
Okay.
If you're just kind of zip in there and take a shot and bug out, then by all means, yeah, make it quick, veg your ghillie suit, shoot and haul ass. If you're going to be posted up on a village waiting for an HVT to show up, absolutely build that hide site. That becomes your fucking your home, dude. Dig it out, fucking throw up some logs, throw some veg on top, and just turn it into the Taj Mahal of holes in the dirt, man. And then, do that, because you're going to be sleeping there. And people always someone's always sleeping, dude. Like, y'all are doing a lot of physical shit, man. Like, if you have a 3-man team, one dude's always asleep. You want a dude to spot, shoot, and be on the radio at the same time? Get the fuck out of here. That's not realistic, man. I need 4 dudes to go overwatch this area for a week. There's 2 dudes sleeping at all times, man. That's insane to think otherwise.
That's exactly how I have always done
Build
it.
a Taj Mahal with a fucking hole in the ground, dude. Have a fucking good time, dude. So
subsurface is what you're saying then for that scenario.
If not full subsurface, at least semi-surface. And then if there's always 2 dudes up on the gun, then you don't need 4 sleeping bags, because there's only 2 dudes asleep. Hot swap those fart sacks, dude. Like, come on, man. Like,
get it. That's some good stuff.
Hey, the more
right
he
there.
farts in there, the warmer it is when I fucking crawl in, dude. So I mean, leave some treats in there for your buddy, right?
Just thought of that Theo Vaughn skit talking about getting a hit off another man's heat.
Yes.
Oh man. So I guess that's all I had. The only other thing that we could get into before we end this thing out is training techniques. You talked about stock week and stuff like that during sniper school. I think that's something that you could actually, if someone understood it, even as a civilian, someone could go replicate kind of that same skill drill in your backyard, if you knew what you were doing. So if you want to break that down, not so much so that you're like giving away tips and tricks. Well, I don't know as much as you want to give away on that, but I think that's something that someone could utilize and start sharpening their skills in whatever terrain that they wanted to do it in.
I absolutely think you become better as a sniper as observing. So you start busting people. You're like, oh fuck, that's what they look like. That's what I look like. Oh shit, and then you grasp that concept. Yeah, absolutely, man. If you have a 8-man team, put 4 dudes on glass, have the other 4 walk up, and when you bust someone, have radios, right? And be like, hey man, freeze right there and bring everyone over and look through glass. Like, here's what I saw, here's what I busted them on. And then make a note, dude, at 300 fucking yards, dude, this dude's fully veg, but due to movement, he looked like shit because of XYZ or whatever.
Yeah.
No, you can replicate the shit out of it. And then when they're done, flip-flop, dude. Have the guys that were just out there come sit on glass, have you try and stalk on them. It costs $0 freaking dollars, but it costs a shit ton of calories, dude. But yeah, it's a good class, and that's what you learn a lot seeing, being on glass, seeing what the people are watching like, oh shit, that's what I look like. Oh, cool. They busted me because of XYZ, and then you can tailor that. And that's kind of where back early and we were talking earlier, now you can build your ghillie suit to XYZ because you're like, that shit don't fucking matter, or that shit really does matter. And you start getting busted on this or that and so on and so forth. But yeah, getting on glass, seeing what the other guys are doing that. And that's I think it works really good.
Yeah. Is there any other training advice you would give someone that's, not in the military? They're not going to have the opportunity to go to sniper school, and they're just trying to get better at these skills on their own. Like, what are some other things they can do outside of just like that stalking drill?
Man, I don't bow hunt, but all the bow hunters I talk to, they have to get really, really close to their prey to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
I rifle hunt, so I mean, I'll sit my deer stand with a fucking 6-pack and a can of Copenhagen and play on my phone, and it obviously requires zero effort. But these bow hunters who like take into account like scent and camouflage and this and that, all these other things, get with some of those dudes, man. If you can hide from a deer who is a wild animal and all he thinks about all day is food and not dying,
yeah,
take some notes from those dudes and be like, well, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? But then learn to read between the bullshit lines, because they're going to like cover themselves in dough piss. Like, you don't even cover yourself in dough piss to defeat people, right? But like the actual like good tips and tricks from these bow hunters who are getting kills from a deer from like 15 to 20 yards away, like that's a skill.
Yeah.
Like that's a real thing. If you can kill a wild animal who's knows those woods from 20 yards away, you can fucking stalk, right? So if you can kill a deer from 20 yards away because you outstalked it, you can fucking defeat a person at multiple 100 yards away. So that's my little tidbit there.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't go to some guy who's from the Bronx and be like, hey man, help me with these stalks,
Yeah. Hey man, he might know how to stalk on a hot dog stand or something like that. So
it's funny, dude. So you'll get these guys from like the big cities and they're like, hey, Sarn, you're like, man, where you from? He's like, man, I'm from the Bronx. You're like, ah, shit, I ain't got a lot of help for you, brother. You had to get some grass on you, dog. Like, it's funny when you get the random dude from like the Bronx. You're like, oh, I'm from downtown LA. You're like, ah, shit. We gotta work with you a little bit more. So
yeah.
Hey, that's cool though. Well, dude, that's. I think we got through a fair amount of stuff. I mean, obviously, this is a super in-depth topic, and we could probably go forever about it. But I know you had a kind of a time constraint, so we won't keep you too much longer. I appreciate you giving the time and being willing to jump in here with us. It's been awesome, man.
Yeah, man. You could do this this podcast would probably go for a week if we really wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be glad to talk to y'all again about other stuff and more in depth in other areas, and by all means, and DMs, whatever. But yeah, it's as you see, like, we're like, hey, you want to add anything else in the show? I'm like, nah, man, I think we can veer off on enough topics as is. So yeah. You can what if the shit out of it too. That's what's kind of one of those things.
Yeah, I think it'll serve good to have like this as kind of an intro. Like, hey, this is some basic stuff. Kind of start getting people thinking, getting outside the box on some of the stuff that's available as far as the education and things go. And then, yeah, maybe if it works for you, we can get into some more in-depth stuff later. But as far as people finding you, if people want to reach out and follow you or have questions for you, where can people find you at?
Instagram is going to be the best. That's where I respond to most stuff. I'm going to be doing more YouTube stuff, but that's just so much more time consuming.
Yeah.
And just YouTube is what YouTube is. So Instagram is the best for me. And I try to answer the most of them. I'm pretty responsive, and I answer everything I can, dude. I get dudes about to be students through sniper school versus the airsofter versus the modern day Minuteman. And I try to help, and I try to pay them. I try to be blunt too, because they're like, hey man, I really worry about this ghillie suit and whatever. It's like, man, you should probably worry about this instead. But I still like this ghillie suit, I might throw my 2 cents on some stuff, and
good.
But it is what it is. So
perfect. if you don't know, you can find him Skullduggerous_pirate. Correct? That's
right.
Underscore. Yeah, I was pretty sure there's an underscore in there.
I'll put it in the description as always. So
perfect.
It'll be down there. Well, cool, man. Yeah, it's a blast to talk to you. And again, I appreciate the time that you spent doing it with us. And yeah, if it ever works in the future to have you back on, we'd love to have you back, man.
Yeah, dude. And if there's something that we can do here at the schoolhouse and get some other instructors out there from other sniper related topics, we would love to help out. We are
sweet.
We defend the American people, so if we can educate the American people as well. I do not condone whatever blah blah blah, whatever DOD's nonsense disclaimer or whatever, but we are all pretty patriotic guys that work there, so if there's something y'all need and whatever, by all means, man, we support the American people and we defend the American people, so we can pass on knowledge to the American people. We're there. And so yeah, that was not condoned by the DOD. That's the word I was looking for. Not condoned by the DOD, but here we are. Yeah. So yeah, we can help y'all out by all means, man. We're patriots and we love America, and if we can help y'all be more BA Americans, we would love to.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, can't end on a better note than that right there. So thanks, brother. We appreciate it.